Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Akkeñña saññino sattha akkeyasmin patiṭṭhita akkeyang apariññāya yogamanyanti macchuno akkeñca pariññāya akkāthāram na maññati tanhi tassa na hoti yena nam vajjana tassa atti. Dear listeners, today again one sermon on dependent origination. Today the theme of today's sermon I brought up from Samuppada Sutta in Devata Sangyutta. The meaning of these two stanzas I will explain later. Normal meaning is beings are aware of what can be named. They take their stand on what can be named. By not fully understanding what can be named, they come back to go under the yoke of death. The next one. He who fully understands what can be named and thinks not in terms of one who speaks, for such things do not occur to him, that by which they speak, that is not for him. It's too difficult and deep stanza, so listen carefully. Dear listeners, the teacher of the three realms, the fully enlightened Lord Buddha, has revealed to us through the law of dependent arising that a good many of the problems, controversials, doubts, and disputes in the world arise from linguistic conventions. The problem of samsara, which is the biggest problem, is also due to it. On this first full moon, the topic of today's sermon, the two verses relating to that aspect of linguistic usage, the worldly usage. These two verses are found in the Samuppada Sutta of Sagathanavagga in the Samyutta Nikaya. There is an interesting introductory story to these two verses which has a flavor of Dhamma in it. When the Lord Buddha was staying at Tapoda Monastery in Rajagaha, Venerable Samidhi woke up at dawn and went to the hot springs at Tapoda to bathe. Having bathed in the hot springs and come out from it, he stood in one robe, drying his limbs. Then a certain deity, a god, who was exceedingly beautiful, illuminating the entire hot springs, approached the Venerable Samidhi and standing in air addressed him in this verse. Another verse he has told to Venerable Samidhi. Abutva bhikkasasi bhikkhu nahi buddvana bhikkhasi buddvana bhikkhu bhikkhasa mathankalo upajaga. That is, Not having enjoyed, you go for alms, monk. You do not go for alms, uh, having enjoyed. Having enjoyed, monk, you go for alms. Let not the time pass you by. That deity, that God asked him to, you are still young, so why you are in an ordination? First you enjoy the life, then after you can get ordained. So that monk replied, that means Abutwa Bhikkhasi Bhikkhu, monk, you have come to this monkhood which is dependent on alms, not having enjoyed the fivefold sense pleasures, the pleasures which can experience by eye, ear, nose, tongue, and body. Nahi Putvana Bhikkhasi, not that you have come to monkhood after enjoying the sensual pleasures. Buddhana Bhikkhu Bhikkhasa, monk, go to monkhood having enjoyed the sensual pleasures. Matang Kalu Pajaga, do not let the best time for enjoying sensual pleasures, that is youth, pass, pass you by. Here is an invitation that goes against the Dhamma, and here is the reply of Venerable Samiti. He has replied like this way: Kalang va ham na janami, channo kalo na dissati, tasma abutva bhikkami mamang kalo upajaga. That means, I do not know the time of death. Hidden is the time. It is not seen. That is why I go for alms without enjoying. Let not the opportune time pass me by. Kalang va ham na janami. I do not know when I have to die. Channo kala nadisati. The time of death is hidden from me. It is not seen. Tasma abutva bhikkami. Therefore, I have come to monkhood without enjoying sensual pleasures. Mamang kalo pajaga. With though let the opportune time for monkhood pass me by. The deity, the god, asked him to. Uh, he in his aspect, deity asked him to uh, do not pass the time of enjoying. Then again, the monk replied, do not pass the time uh, to work for the liberation. So, but the deity did not give up his attempt to mislead Venerable Samiti. He came down and standing on the earth and said, Monk, you have gone forth while young with laid back hair, endowed with radiant youth, without having dallied with sensual pleasures. Enjoy human sensual pleasures. Monk, do not abandon what is directly visible in order to purpose what takes time. So Venerable Samiti again tell against to him, friend, it is not that I abandon what is directly visible and run after what takes time. For the fortunate one, the Lord Buddha has said that sensual pleasures involve time, the full of suffering and full of despair, and that is the danger in them is still greater. Visible here and now is the Dhamma, and immediate, timeless, that means the Dhamma's qualities, can inviting one to come and see, leading one onwards, to be personally experienced by the wise people. So, however, uh, this deity asked again, he didn't agree, then he again asked him to how the Dhamma be the Sandhitika means can see here and now. Then how is it timeless, and how is it um, can ask him, somebody to come and see. So after that, that monk was so newly ordained. So that monk asked him to go to the Lord Buddha and ask from him. But that deity again tell him to, uh, no, dear monk, I can't go, because Lord Buddha always, when he preached the Dhamma, so many higher gods with him. So a god such me, I cannot go to that places. So please ask behalf of me for this question. So I also will there in that time. So after that, the monk was agreed. Then he asked this question from Lord Buddha. Then, however, our theme, two stanzas, are proclaimed by Lord Buddha as an answer for this. Akkeya Sanyino Sattha. These words might sound strange to some one of you if we go by etymology. Keya. Keya means to tell, and Keyam means is therefore what has to be told. It can also mean what can be named or verbally conveyed. The perception of being is based on nameable. That is Akenya Sanyino Satta. Wait, I will explain. Nameable, that is uh, a concept of being. Akenya Sanyino Satta. Beings are aware of what can be named. Akeyasmin Patichcha. They take their stance on what can be named. So for explain this stanza, we have to go to the Patichcha Samuppada, the cycle of name, form, and cognition, and maybe consciousness. In the last time sermon, I have told you there is two tangles in in the in the late stanzas. One is a cycle, unknowing of one tangle is cycle of name and form. Another cycle is name, form, and cognition. In last sermon, we have talked about Anto Jata Bahi Jata Jataya Jatita Pajang Tantang Gotama Puchami Soimang Vijate Jatang. Internal also tangled, external also tangled. All beings are tangled. Who can be distangle those? So that is a question some God asked from the Lord Buddha. So the questions are, what is the internal tangle and what is the external tangle, and how the beings entangle with those. Internal tangle mean the tangle in name and form. As an example, now you can hear, now you can see something on your table. You can see your smartphone. But once we see the smartphone, there is just a cognition is there, just a seeing, but we have a conceiving, if I see or not, if I cognize this or not. There is an independent smartphone is there, independent form is there. The, the internal tangle is establishment of form and name, independent form and name. But Lord Buddha's words are, a form cannot exist without naming, naming cannot exist without a form. As an example, in a busy time, in office time, like 5 o'clock, 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. In a town, maybe in a platform, uh, person to person may can touch while they walking. So in that time, some people can be and get angry. But uh, sometimes if we throw a stone to another stone, maybe that another stone may be crushed, but the stone will not get any angry. And even that stone have not any idea about uh, contact of that another stone also. There's no idea. Uh, if we tell about this stone, crush this stone, that is also our thinking, not a thinking of the stone, right? So if there's a contact, there must be a formally touched and a namely contact. Unless there will not, uh, there cannot be exist anything than this. If you want to see the phone, there must be uh, there must be a physical thing like that, and you need a naming like your brain or your nervous system. The primary naming aspect of naming. What is the naming? As an example, first of all, I need to explain what is nama rupa, name and form. Is there a hot water glass? So once you touch the hot water glass, you feel the foam is the glass, and the solidity of the glass and the hot, that is the foam. So once you touch, there is a firstly your mind wake up with the sensation. According to your experience, your mind, your concept of self wake up by the sensations. Quickly feel low unpleasant sensation, then perceive that unpleasant sensation as an unpleasant sensation. So then arise an intention, oh my hand is burning. Then there arise in the contact as how uh, there is an independent glass, and here is my hand, and I am experiencing this. The three parts, tinnang sangati passo. Contact mean passa. uh, Passa mean, tinnang mean three things, sangati mean, sang mean a prefix, gati mean going, sang mean a prefix for using to tell the idea of togetherness. uh, the together going of three things we call the passa. That is together going of uh, now once you touch the hot water glass, sensation, perception, intention, then your mind tell you, oh, there's a hot water glass, and here is my hand, and my hand is and I am experiencing the burning of my hand. The external, internal, and consciousness as self, an idea of self. Then contact also there. Then there is an attention also. Those five things: sensation, perception, intentions, then contact and attention. Those five things are the primarily way of naming something. Naming, we can name something by those. The infant baby also name some things by those. Some kind of blind person also naming something by this primarily naming. Primarily naming. Then what's Lord Buddha telling? If there's no any naming, there cannot exist. If there is no naming, that means if there is no any conscious body or a brain or like conscious body, uh, we cannot talk about a hot water glass or smartphone. Because if you think about a smartphone, it may be a seeing of eye, it may be a cognition of an ear of the ear, it may be a cognition of the body, at least it may be a cognition of mind, nothing else. If you think about a phone, those are the only things what you can be experienced, nothing else. If you think about if I stay here or not, the phone is existing in there, you can think like that. If I cognize or not, phone is there, like that way. But it also just a cognition that what arises in your mind. Why we are talking about this cognition? Because Lord Buddha's main focus, the only focus is overcoming of stress and suffering. So if we need to overcome from the suffering, we have to, if we need to overcome from the suffering, we have to contemplate on if you the place of the suffering arising. If you understand the place of suffering, we have to cease the suffering also in that place. So that's why we talk about this moment experience, because in this moment we can the suffering arising, and we can cease the suffering also in this very moment. So that's why we always focused on experiences. A form cannot exist without naming, and a naming about a phone also cannot exist without a form, without a physical thing. As an addition of the form and name, there can be a contact. If not, there is no any, we cannot tell about a thing like this. So the internal problem is the cycle of name and form. We are deluded name form as a one thing. We are deluded as name also existing, form also existing as independent things. But it's wrong. Always name need a form, and always form need a name. Naming. Unless we cannot, uh, unless there is no any chance to exist, to existence and illusion. Ignorance arises in this moment. In that moment, as thinking there is an independent form and independent naming. It can, it will never, it never can be happened. At the other side, name, form, and cognition. Name, form, and cognition. Name form means if there is a name or form, a name and form, that means a cognition. Now look like this. If you see your phone, uh, Lord Buddha has given a nice example for this. Like um, in our final time, what we are experiencing is name and forms, nothing else. Now you are hearing my sound. There is a sound, the reflection of sound, and there is a reflection of sound, and there is naming, sensations, perceptions, intention, contact, and attention. That is what happening in this time. But you creating a conceiving in the mind as an individual, independent, established in, internal and external sides. But it's conceiving. We are thinking internal and external sides always. If you hear some sound, your idea is there is something, there is someone or some soul, some self is listening. If you see something, I am listening. If you hear something, I am hearing. If you taste something, I am tasting. But actually, there is some preparations, like the addition of external things and the brain. The main problem is we have an conceiving about a mind, about about a, about real things. But what Lord Buddha had preached, a concept of mind and thoughts, a concept of eye and visuals, those are sankatang, abhisanchetetang. Those are prepared by own thoughts. If we talk about mind, it also are thinking, are conceiving. That's what Lord Buddha had preached, because from in a long time of period, the human and all beings have an idea there is an actual thing, there is an actual uh, person or soul or self, what's experiencing this. So always we need to try to so always we have just name and forms, but continuously uh, arising in our mind. One to one, name and forms rising. But those name and forms, you can think the name and form is just the mechanism of the human life, the external things uh, and naming. But if the cognition, if uh, the the nature of cognizing in a normal mind, it's reflectable, it's manifestive. It take it as a real, and it divide two places: eye and visual, ear and sound, nose and smell, taste and tongue, and etc. But once the cognition becomes non-manifestive, there is name and form, just a name and form. Name and form, just a cognition to him. And the external thing, if external reflection and naming, that's it. Nothing to cling, nothing to take as mine, nothing to take as external and internal. But as the work of cognition, it shows you again a name and form. By the name and form, you can now you are hearing my sound. That is, my sound is a form. Your brain's work is the naming. That experience is just that. But if you are cognizing, if your consciousness is manifestive, it catch that and cling and shows you an independent sound and independent ear, the person who is listening. The two places, two parts. So that is the cycle of name, form, and cognition. And again, it shows a name and form. Then there is also name and forms arising. Then cognition again shows a name and form. And that name and form also just a cognition of the mind. So in this way, the all tangles are working in this manner. So now we have to talk about our stanza again. Akkeya Sanjino Sapta. Beings are aware of what can be named. That means the beings who are conceiving the things as independent things by delusion. Akkeyasmin patittita. Um they take their stand on what can be named. You're thinking, you're conceiving, or you're naming is, oh, here is the table, here is the smartphone, here is the house, here is my husband, here is my wife, here is my children, here is my mother and father. You stand on the namings, but those are just namings. By not fully understanding what can be named, that means akkeyam aparinyaya, he didn't understand well about naming, about this naming. Yoga machanti machuno. They come back to under the yoke of death. But akkencha parinyaya, that means he who fully understands what can be named. That means the namings, the body, the phone, the computer, the window, the door, those names just as cognition, as nothing else. And things not in terms of one who speaks. That means akaram namanyati. That means, and think not in terms of one who speaks. That means he does not conceiving now. He does not conceiving on words, on naming. Tanhi tasana ho titi yena nam vajjana tasa hoti tasa atti. That means that by which they speak, that is not for him. For that type of person, anything is not make him. Anything is not make him possible. Like that mean it just talk about that the name, form, and cognition, the cycle of name, form, and cognition, because those just are cognitions. The name cannot exist. The phone of name cannot exist without the phone. The namings of a phone cannot exist without the phone. The physical phone cannot exist without a conscious body. Who will tell this to a phone if there's not the conscious body? So, but we have idea. We give the live to the physical things as things. We give we alive. We give the life to the namings. But those just all things are just cognitions, just understandings, nothing else. So once you attain this movement as cognition. So that's why I tell you some tricks to understand. If you see something as eye and visual, if you hear something, ear and sound, if you taste something, tongue and taste, if you feel something to the mind, oh, mind and thought. If you but you look into you insight into not the real one, you insight into the conceiving what makes in your mind, the conceiving. You think about the conceiving. So we need to we need to insight not the real two sides, or not the real duality. What conceived by the mind. If you when you hear my sound, your mind shows you, oh, there's a Bhante sound, and I'm listening. Now you look into that conceiving, oh, the sound, the and the a person who listening. That's it. So you understand this very well. Then your mind shows will you can understand. Oh, this is just a just a hearing without a observe and observing thing. Once you train your mind as be in the present moment without conceivings, there is no preparation. Then the then the cognition is consciousness is consciousness, so cognition is non-reflective, non-manifestive. If your cognition is non-manifestive, once you're going to die, the name forms will arise in your mind according to your karma. But if your cognition is non-manifestive, the cognition cannot cling it, catch it. So there is no any fuel to go into another birth. Like like an extinguishing of an oil lamp, your samsara will end in that time. By the oil also ceased, the thread also ceased, and the fire also ceased. Everything ceased. There is no way to go to another life. Because the fuel is the clinging. Fuel is the concept of existence. If you have not that, if you don't cling, and if your cognition don't cling the last moment, name and form, there is no way to uh, go to next. Uh, there is no way to give a birth to another place, another being. That's why Lord Buddha had preached there is no any soul or self go birth to birth. There's no nothing going birth to birth. But there is a suffering, arising suffering is passing. There is no any soul, there is no any self, but this kind of suffering, kind of stress is there. That's why he told that is the noble truth of the entire world. The entire life, the entire samsara is suffering, is stress. So we can overcome from it, but we need to do more effort to be in the wisdom. So if you're in the wisdom, the cognition will non-manifest you. If it's non-manifest you, there is name and form will not be, will not get a thingness. Name and form will not be a conceiving. Just it's an experience. So if there's no name and form, there is no any conceiving about eye and visual, ear and sound. There is no sense basis, and there is no contact as external thing, internal thing, and the person and the self who's experiencing. There is no that contact, and there is no any sensations. There is no any chance to take any sensation as a thing, because if you feel unpleasant or pleasant sensation, it also just and experience and cognition to him. And there is no one who is experiencing, just experiencing. Only the wise people can understand what I'm telling. So, if you know how the uh, sensation, there is no craving. There is no craving, there is no clinging. If there is no clinging, there is no any concept of existence as world and me. If there is no existence, there is no birth anymore. If there is no birth, that is the entire cessation of the entire mass of suffering and stress. Now also you can experience that. Now you're hearing my sound. You are hearing my sound. Oh, inside that, close your eyes and inside. Oh, that is you look into the mind's conceiving. Oh, that is Bhante's sound. And oh, here I am hearing. That is the two sides, two ends. Bhante's sound and ear, ear and sound. Once you look into these two parts, your mind will show you, oh, this is just hearing, just cognizing. So if you have a small feeling, abandon that small feeling also. Oh, this feel emptiness, this emptiness also. A thought, oh, that is the thought, that is the mind. Look into that duality. Your mind will shows you, oh, there is also just a cognition, cognizing. And there is very deep cognizing in the mind, very deep experience, like emptiness. And abandon it also. This also will not last any longer. If I think this as mine, I'm and myself, if this sees, mine also sees, my thing also sees. So this is also impermanent and non-self. Abandon it. In that place you can experience the stilling of all preparations or relinquishment of all assets. That means Nibbana. So I wish you all to attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana in this very life, at least in the non-returner stage. So do more effort. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.